What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope you guys are well. Man, a lot of stuff going on. Looking through the chat. Yeah, man. I heard some rumors about ARC. I didn't want to confirm anything until I saw something documented. I do hope it ain't true, though. But anyway. Welcome back to the Onyx Report. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel if you will, so we can continue to bring you this independent black male thought. Support the show in every way we can. You got, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Of course, you can do so right here on YouTube, with the super chat, or you can go to Patreon. You can support the show there, Onyx Report. You can also support the Institute for Black Male Studies, as well as the Onyx Network channel. So please make sure you take advantage of one of those forms so that we can continue to bring you this work. I kind of took a unplanned hiatus for a little while. I'm pretty much the person in my family that cooks on Thanksgiving. So I did 3 days of straight cooking, air fried a turkey. So I was pretty wiped out. And we're close to the end of the semester. So, we got finals coming up, students scrambling for grades. And because of the economy, man, I'm hearing shit from students that, every year I hear it, man. I haven't gotten desensitized to it yet, man. You got students sleeping in the park, you know what I mean? Doing homework at Starbucks, just trying to get some internet. It can get draining, and so hearing from, brothers as well, some of the things they're going through, sometimes you got to take a minute and breathe. So I do apologize for bouncing for a little bit. I'm gonna try and get the grind back in, but like I said, finals are coming up, so it's that end of the semester kind of deal, and I'm pretty wiped out right around that time. Nevertheless, if you would support the show, it's much appreciated. Shout out to Heru in the Apocalypse. Appreciate that support. I see him. I'm listening in the house. F Holiday, what's up? Shack Channel, what's going on? Artisan, what's good, man? Yeah, man. Vincent, KJ, what's up? None of the brothers in here. Mark, what's going on? Shocks 112, appreciate that support. Says you gotta throw some of your recipes up, brother. Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. I'm about to start making I got a pizza oven. I'm about to get deep off into that game. I like cooking, man. I like to get that together. I gotta make a pot roast after this show, as a matter of fact. So I'm trying to make sure my son knows how to throw down before he leaves. What's up, Mark? I'm not gonna be up here all night. There's something I wanted to walk y'all through. Just some things, floating through my head. Y'all know I've been on this Black Panther kick for a few years because ever since the MCU decided to tap dance into my childhood in terms of some of the characters that I grew up reading, I feel like it's my place to comment on different things that have taken place. But Black Panther, they kind of made it personal, more so than it was, because there are also some things going on outside of the live action film that I think requires some discussion, especially as it pertains to Black males. You know what I'm saying? So, let me see. Let me go ahead and pull some of this up if I can. I think there's some things that are worth talking about. So we're just going to kind of, it's not as organized as it might usually be, but I just kind of want to walk through a few things. So this here, I did a show on this before, but I couldn't find it. But I found the article, so whatever. All right. So this is 2018. This is after the first Black Panther movie. right? And a couple of the cast members, shout out to Romello for that support, appreciate that, came together to surprise a student with a scholarship at a Hollywood Reporter's Women in Entertainment event, right? The stars Chadwick Boseman, Lupita Nyong'o, and Denai Guerrera, probably mispronounced that, on Wednesday surprised the student with a full ride scholarship as part of the Young Executives Fellowship during the Hollywood Reporter's 2018 Women in Entertainment event held at Milk Studios in LA, right? I'm not going to show the video, but I will put all the links I cover tonight in the description box. You can check them yourself. But Chadwick was on stage after the first Black Panther movie, and they announced two things. They announced this Young Executives Fellowship, and they announced the Black Panther Scholarship. And of course, there was a lot of rhetoric about how things needed to really, be prioritized in terms of women and young girls. Well, mainly women in terms of this particular event, right? So the three, stars from the film got up and they talked about it. Said they were on hand at the star-studded gala to present the new scholarship, the Black Panther Scholarship, created by Walt Disney Studios, which gave one girl from THR's Women in Entertainment Mentorship Program a scholarship worth $250,000 to Loyola Marymount University. The program in its ninth year is executed, in partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Greater Los Angeles. Now, this is going to be key. You're going to hear some faint, unclear language that kind of generically references males, but you're going to see very little male representation, right? So again, this is 2018. This is after Black Panther, right? Now understand something. Let me set this up a little bit. And I've said this before, right? Black Panther is not a black made brand, right? This is made by, Stan Lee. The other guy escapes me at the moment. How dare it? But two white men, for the most part, come up with Black Panther in an effort to cater to black male readers, right? Because this was a time when comic books was unapologetically targeted at males. It didn't mean that girls didn't read it, but overwhelmingly it was targeted at males. Girls had other projects, and they treat things now in retrospect like if it was ever targeted at boys, it was somehow oppressive for girls. But things that were targeted at girls weren't targeted at boys. I grew up in that era where when you went to Toys R Us, you had the pink aisle of girl stuff, you had the blue aisle of boys stuff. I didn't go down that aisle. My sister didn't go down my aisle. It was what it was. There wasn't really, thank you, Jack Kirby, Blue Fig. I appreciate that. Jack Kirby and Stan Lee created Black Panther. But anyway, that was the time period, was what it was. Now, retroactively, things that were targeted at boys are now considered patriarchal and oppressive and now need to be open to girls. We don't hear anything targeted at girls. They don't have to change nothing because they can do whatever they want. But in terms of this, you had this brand of Black Panther, which in many ways was inspirational for black boys on levels that I didn't even understand as a kid, right? This is before you heard a lot of language about STEM and whatnot, right? Science, technology, engineering, and math. So here you have this super genius, a master tactician, master martial artist who's king of his own country and comes from a long line of male kings. Now, we're going to sidestep for the moment something that Artisan brought to my attention earlier today about the Black Panther movies, where filtered through an African American imagination, you got Africans in a fictitious country throwing around spears and mimicking the sounds of animals while at the same time downplaying masculinity at almost every turn. We're going to sidestep that for the moment. We're going to bracket off the fact that they gave Black Panther's most, greatest superpower to his little sister, who in the comics never had it. And even though they made a big thing about making her Panther, out of 56 years, she was Panther for about 3 issues. Shout out to Officer Faulkner, right? She was Panther for about 3 issues. But they were already hinting at her being Panther in the first movie. So we're going to bracket all of that. I've already done a show. Shout out to Ghetto User. Appreciate that support. I've already done a show covering Wakanda Forever and all my problems with it. And how many people I've noticed since then that want to critique the film but will dance around gender at any cost. I don't care. I mean, whether you're talking about white viewers, whether you're talking about black nationalists, they'll talk about every dimension of the film and will tap dance around the gender component because nobody wants to touch that. But going back, first movie comes out. Shuri becomes the scientific genius. And from that, What they end up spinning it off into, right, is a scholarship. Right now, the first one, the Black Panther film, goes to a young woman. I talked about this at the time. Nobody really listened. But anyway, it says we know that if we want to live in a world that looks more like Wakanda, the first step is you invest in women and girls, says Guerrera, who received a loud round of applause from the audience. The funny thing about this is they treat black boys like they're white boys. They treat black men like they're white men. Again, flat maleness, because we all have penises. Therefore, we must all be part of the patriarchy. We must all have joined together and had a secret party where white men and black men have shared power, sipped champagne, and laughed at the oppression that they've wrought on black women. And by the way, LGBTs, right? That's the going kind of idea. But when you look at the stats, you actually find that black boys in too many contexts and black men find themselves below black women and girls on too many indices. But we're going to sidestep all that because, of course, as long as they're men, ergo white men, they must be part of the patriarchy and therefore privileged and must be taken down as a result. So here you have people who are participating in the denial and the exclusion of their own boys under the idea that men are privileged because they're men. Not qualifying for black men, Latino men, Native American men, not qualifying for none of that. They're just men. So anyway, it continues. I'll just skip down to the last paragraph because we got a lot of things I'm going to show you. After being awarded the scholarship, Khalees, which is the only name they give her in this particular article. Now I want to say, I'm not any of the young women I point out to. I'm not angry at them. I'm not denying them their gifts, their joy, what they've achieved. Shout out to you. Not mad at you. Not suggesting anybody should be mad at them. I'm just pointing to the practice, and I want you to pay attention to the way this is going down. But this young lady that they awarded the scholarship to, they receives it. She's 17 years old, right? And she has plans to become a pediatric dermatologist and is currently attending high school. So this is focused on LA, Inglewood, Compton, and they make it a point to point out all those, those cities, right? Just to let you know that it is black. They give lip service to boys, but you don't see any, right? So anyway, so that's the first one, right? So this is 2018. That's the scholarship. Let's go and let's look at another. Disney donates $1 million of Black Panther's earnings to building youth STEM programs, right? Right. House of Mouse announces this week that it would be, and this is, mind you, 2018 as well, it would be donating $1 million of the film's profits to creating youth STEM programs in underserved communities around the U.S., including one in Oakland, just like Shuri, or just like very mild Black Panther spoiler, King T'Challa's little sister Shuri, right? According to the press release, the funds will go to the Boys and Girls Club of America. See, lip service, they mentioned boys, to establish 12 brand new STEM centers of innovation in Oakland, Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Memphis, Tennessee, New Orleans, Orlando, Florida, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and L.A., right? Talks about the centers will cater to children and teens, right? Yeah. A lot of flat gendering happening there. You're not hearing very much, right? A lot of flat blackness kind of being, mentioned under the table, right? And it mentions Shuri again, right? Talks about Wakanda, and it says they're going to be doing 3D printing, robotics, so on and so forth. STEM experts, right? And they kind of go through some of the things they're going to do. They talked about how much film the money made, and then from there, the film made, right? This whole paragraph down here is all Letitia Wright talking about playing Shuri. Whole paragraph, and that's the end. It's the end of the article. So the whole paragraph, right? Who are they focusing on? Who are they not? Yeah. Yeah. People are saying more and more it's true. I'm waiting to find out. I haven't seen anything yet, but it looks like folks are saying Alan Roger Curry may have passed. I do hope it isn't true. I really do. But somebody post a link if you can. Anyway, this whole article talking about money extended to STEM programs for the youth, but they're mentioning Shuri quite a bit in the subtitle all throughout the article. Half the article at the bottom is Letitia Wright talking. Okay, who are they targeting? This is the actual ceremony where they gifted the young girl a scholarship. Already gone through that. This is the Young Executives Fellowship. Now, this is part of what was announced in this 2018 ceremony, right, where they extended the scholarship to the young lady. You look at who's in this audience or this group. You tell me who they're targeting. So you got Oprah in the middle. You know, there's a couple guys kind of sprinkled throughout. Yeah. Okay. So AB is saying, yeah, I sent BGS an article on it, but I guess he found more. All right. Or I mean, a video. Damn. Anyway. So as you can see, now I want to pay homage to Alan, but I want to do it right, and I don't have any information. So if it is indeed true, shout out to Alan Roger Curry's family. Condolences. That is not something I wanted to hear. You know, damn. Anyway, but just looking at this, you can kind of tell who they're targeting and who they're not. Right. This is the Young Executives Fellowship. This is what they announced before they announced the Black Panther Scholarship. Kind of the two kind of went hand in hand. Again, very little male representation. And even when you look at the males, right, you see the Latinos, you see some of the white kids. You see any black male faces? All right. I'll wait. All right. Okay. So let's continue. Then we're going to come up to the current day. Well, this one actually says it's about a year old. So we're in transition. So this is almost current day. This is the Chadwick Boseman Howard University and Netflix scholarship. $5.4 million honoring the actor, right? Initiated by the widow. In many respects, this was the Chadwick A. Boseman Memorial Scholarship. Right? Kind of give you some information about it. Talked about how his wife felt, you know, talked a little bit about the cancer, talked about some of the other Howard alumni, and, you know, just kind of really put it out there. Chadwick Boseman, Howard University. I'm thinking if you're going to do something like this, you're going to, you know, really kind of look out for black males because, I mean, we know there aren't many in colleges, at least to the degree that many of us think. So let's move forward. So we got the scholarship again, and here we have some of the recipients. There's one young brother there. All right. So this is the Chadwick Boseman Scholarship. See anything? Okay. Let me see. I made the mistake of trying to leave my Facebook up, but people are posting stuff all throughout. So anyway, and this is the latest one I received. Somebody sent this to me as well. I think this is one of the latest recipients. And I caused a stir, kicked over a hornet's nest on Facebook because I asked the question in the top corner, when can there actually be something for black men? And the first reaction I got, aside, of course, from pissed off, you know, feminists, was, you know, people that came in to protect the young woman that somehow, I guess they figured I was attacking. I'm not talking about her. I'm not personalizing this to her. I'm not dissing her. I'm not, you know, I don't even want to hear anything about her hair color, none of that. This is not about her. I'm not, you know, I'm not negative. I'm not, you know, suggesting that black women shouldn't get scholarships. This has nothing to do with that. I'm just asking a basic question. When can black males actually have something? The Black Panther, you would think, would have been targeted at black males, right? Doesn't seem to be happening. So, you know, here you got this $5.4 million scholarship. From what we can tell, not very many men win it, right? And this is at, again, Howard University. So, yeah, people decide to send me all kind of messages during the damn show. Anyway, so this is on the thumbnail, just to kind of, you know, remind you, this is the tone, right? This is what we're looking at. Black Panther children's book. You got Black Panther in the background, Shuri in the foreground. Subtitle of the book, Shuri is Brave. What the hell are we talking about? Now, I'm a father of a son. I'm very sensitive to what kinds of things are targeted at boys and what kind of things ignore them altogether. This is a little subtext, but let's look at Howard, right? So here at Howard, you have an article about 10 women deans at Howard University, something that no other university can brag about. You got 10 black women deans. And that is what it is. I take nothing from it. I even wrote on a caption on the side. I said, so Howard University posted 10 black women deans. But what I found interesting about this is the young lady that posted this on LinkedIn suggested that this was reflective of the composition of our student population. And that's what took me off guard. Reflective of the composition of our student population. That's a great achievement. No one else can boast. But at the same time, why is no one asking why black men aren't attending or what it would take to increase the numbers? The question seemed to me to be seriously invest in addressing the gender disparity at Howard or just bring in more women. And the answer was to bring in more women and damn the men for why they're not attending. And the reason that's important is because at the end of the day, we're seeing similar patterns across the country as far as black males in attendance. We're seeing massive dropout rates that have been fairly consistent from years, up to 70% in their first year of black male college students that don't make it after their first year. I don't hear anybody talk about the shit. But we can double down at Howard and bring in 10 deans. Now, here's the thing about that, too. What I've noticed working with women when it comes to recruiting at different universities, black women in particular, is that what tends to happen is they end up recruiting more women. There's almost this kind of solipsistic focus that it tends to be tied to this. Now, I will not, ignore that when it comes to K through 12, black males are not put on college track more often than not. They're put into special ed more than any other demographic. They're expelled and sent to detention in higher numbers than any other group. So I do and I do know the graduation rates from high school. As far as black males are concerned, much greater emphasis on GEDs than on high school high school diplomas. So I get that you're not going to have the same numbers of black males graduating high school as you are black females. You have an educational system that is overwhelmingly female when it comes to the faculty. But we're going to pretend like that has no impact on the students. We're going to pretend like women faculty, be they white or other, are going to treat men or treat boys like they treat girls. And we're shocked that girls are going to college in much higher numbers across race. Okay, whatever. But this whole issue of bringing in more women can be a problem if those women have no purposeful agenda to bring in boys in equal numbers or even put emphasis on that. See, here's the thing. When I went to undergrad, I was at Cal State Dominguez in Carson near LA. And I went there in 92. And I ended up working for a number of places on campus, but one of them was the EOP program, right? And there was a sister there that handled business, Miss Ball. I think she's still on campus somewhere. Miss Ball was dope. She was dope. She actually sent me to the Million Man March. She sent me to the Million Man March. She financed it so I could go. You're talking about some of the sisters that used to really be out there supporting young men. I didn't ask her to do it. She approached me and asked me if I wanted to go. And as a consequence of that, I got to meet my grandfather in person for the very first time because of that trip. But nevertheless, Miss Ball was on it. One of the things she did is she set up a program, because if you know anything about Dominguez, it sits right next to Compton. And black males weren't attending in great numbers, but we had about 37% of the campus that was black at that time. So that was as black as you were going to get in California. But what she did to increase the number of black males, because she noticed then in 92 that those numbers were much lower than they should have been. She set up a program where black males in Compton and the surrounding areas would come stay on campus over the weekend, right? This is key. They'd stay on campus over the weekend, and she hired me as a student to host them. So they stayed in the dorms. I would take them around the campus, and then she let me do whatever I want with them. And she didn't ask. So what I would do is show them Spook Who Sat by the Door, and we would have a real conversation about what it meant to be black males. I'm 18, 19 years old at this point, right? We talk all night about what's going on with black males. And then she would have them fill out a 1-page document, name, address, all of that. And as long as they got their high school diploma, they were automatically admitted to Dominguez Hills. Automatically admitted. I, to this day, don't know how many black males she got on that campus doing that. And I didn't even know the significance of that at the time, but I just knew it was something I had to do. Shout out to Miss Ball. She saw a problem, she addressed it. I wonder how many of these 10 deans will do something similar. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, let's look at the numbers at Howard. Howard University has a total undergraduate enrollment of 8,964 fall 2021, with a gender distribution of 28% male students and 72% female students. So you're telling me the boys couldn't use a scholarship? They couldn't use a Chadwick Boseman scholarship? They couldn't use a Black Panther scholarship? They couldn't use a Disney financed STEM scholarship? None of them? See, the thing that happened with some of the boys that Miss Ball brought into Dominguez is, yeah, some of them might have needed what we might call remedial courses. But many of them graduated. Many of them did the work and caught up. And the funny thing about it is when I see undocumented students coming into campuses, some of them are given courses that allow them to catch up. And many of the Black males that I still see are first generation coming to college, first ones in their families. They still need that help. Anyway, we're looking at this dynamic just at Howard, we can see the gender breakdown. 72 to 28. And how many of these scholarships are targeted? Oh, I had some people come in the chat and argue with me. There are Black male scholarships. Okay. But we're not seeing them all over the news like this. You're not seeing celebrities finance them like this. You're not seeing 10 male deans brought in and focusing specifically on increasing the enrollment and making sure that these students have a sense of belonging on the campus, make sure that they matriculate all the way through and maybe even go to graduate school. We're not seeing that kind of push for Black males, but we're seeing it for Black women. And again, if you say something about it, it's crass, it's uncouth. If you don't say anything about it, it continues and it continues to grow. The solipsism I talked about. And I've worked on programs with sisters. Programs designed to recruit. And you know what ends up happening? They primarily target on recruiting girls. I don't see any Miss Balls anymore. I'm not saying they're not there at all, but I don't see them regularly. I do not. Not going to hold you too much longer. Here we go. This is dated November 25th of this year. Disney awards $1 million in grants to support youth in STEM and the arts in honor of Marvel Studios' Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This is the impetus behind tonight's show. There was the scholarship in 2018. Now we got the scholarship in 2022, both of which inspired by Black Panther. But in the second movie, Black Panther ain't even present, or at least not the original one that we've been reading about since the 1960s, and damn sure not one that actually targets boys. But we're supposed to accept that and applaud. And there are plenty of men that came in my comment sections applauding the women and so on and so forth, because that's how we're, socialized. We prioritize women's feelings, their perspectives, what they need to do, what they're trying to do. We applaud as good men, even if it's to our detriment. And we shut the hell up when it comes to the things that actually hurt us, to the point where women don't have to listen to us whatsoever. They're not even socialized to. Matter of fact, there's a significant portion of women that will run across this video, see the title, and never even listen to it. And I've had some just come in the comments, look at a few comments, and walk away. Some will listen to a minute and then decide to give me a read on myself, my life, and everything that anybody listening to this video must be. They'll do all of that. But very few will actually listen to what Black males are saying, because they don't have to. We're trained to listen to them. It's not the other way around. Which is why there's not a focus on Black males and nobody cares. So here you go, right? The Dora Milaje put in the foreground, even though in the comics, they were really just the King's Guard. There was only a few of them. Now all of a sudden they're the army. Now they're running the government. And now they've taken over the second movie. They're the primary focus. And now we have several scholarships around these films that don't have anything to do with the boys that the Black Panther brand was designed to attract. You see the girls being the target. Nothing negative meant toward her. Glad she could do that. But recipient organizations include Girls Who Code. Say anything here for boys? Did they even look? See, I'm not saying there aren't organizations for boys. I'm saying when you look at what they've targeted, Chicas and Technologia, I read that. I know I read that. In Argentina, Chicas. Anything here for the boys? Not really. When you start seeing women's names in administrative positions in corporations, I'm telling you, that's actually the starting point for a lot of this solipsism, right? This focus only on girls. primarily filtered through women in powerful positions who often have sons. Their sons may go to school on their dollar, but the programs they create will not target their own sons. And this is across race to some extent in this, feminist push, right? But here you go. Teens and young adults supported by these organizations attended exclusive screenings in a variety of different cities. See, they say teens and young adults to give you this kind of flat gendered idea, like boys are represented, right? You kind of filter through, you look at some of the different organizations they're talking about. But again, this is telling you more than it looks like. And the last thing I'll show you for tonight, shout out to Brandon for sending me this. San Francisco Chronicle, Stanford investigated for bias against men. This is dated December 1st, 2022, today. This is what we're talking about. Men are finally starting to respond in court. They're starting to respond in terms of producing theory and producing research. They're finally starting to respond in terms of voicing their discontent because we're seeing it in so many circles while others tell us it's not happening. That warm water on your head is indeed urine, right? I Am Waf says, went to go see Devotion last night, a movie about a Black American war hero pirate in the Korean War. I was the only person in the whole theater. Yeah, I went to see it a few days ago. Interesting film. I have nothing negative to say about it. True story from what I understand. Good film. If you haven't checked out Devotion, even harkens back to a relationship between a Black man and a Black woman that actually went well for the most part. But anyway, let me finish this real quick. So federal officials are investigating allegations that Stanford University is biased against men, stemming from a Title IX complaint filed by two men's rights activists who say that scholarships and programs dedicated to women create a hostile environment for male applicants, arguing that women are the overrepresented sex among college students nationwide. And trust me when I tell you, the gender divergence between other groups isn't anywhere near as much as it is for black folks, right? And that women also dominate law schools, medical schools, and teaching jobs in the public school system, right? Complainants Kursat Pegos and the CEO of a Turkish real estate company, and James Moore, Stanford alumnus and emeritus professor at USC, are seeking a series of injunctive measures from the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. Among the remedies Pegos and Moores have called for are the elimination of discriminatory language and affirmative action practices for women, as well as the creation of programs and scholarships that target men to offset the balance. They ain't said nothing about Black men. These are not Black men that are pushing for this. But other groups of men are starting to listen. And the thing about it is, you'll find that the discrepancies in treatment on gender terms is worse for Black men than even other groups of men. But other groups of men are starting to speak up. Stanford University officials did not respond to a request for comment. The complaint filed in 2019 was first reported by Forbes on Wednesday. On November 1st, the Department of Education sent a letter to Stanford President Mark Tessier Levine to notify the university of the pending investigation. In their filing, Pagos and Moore compare program and scholarships directed exclusively toward women to a German campus, limiting the number of Jewish applicants, or the school segregation doctrine struck down by Brown v. Board. Ain't that some shit? They're referencing Germany and Jews, African Americans, and Jim Crow as a framework for understanding the exclusion of men and boys. That's deep. They also analogize women-only programs to businesses posting whites-only signs. See how they use our history? But here's the thing. I'm talking about this in relation to Black men because you've seen the numbers. Even if we're just talking about Howard, it's still extensive. When you get to the point where Black males are damn near an endangered species at HBCUs, there is something that needs to be dealt with. And we got to start empirically by looking at the numbers. Now, I'm not comfortable with people just arbitrarily grabbing points out of history to make arguments. But I will say, the shoe fits, especially as it pertains to Black males. Let's have the discussion, right? And I think Black men need to be far more forthright about where we fit in this discussion, because we actually have it worse than a lot of other groups, even other groups of men. And we don't seem to know it. right? I apologize for ignoring the chat. I just wanted to kind of get through this so you guys can see this for yourselves, right? They start talking about whites only signs being analogous to women's only signs, excluding non-women. Characterizing himself as an activist for fairness. See, they're putting stuff in quotes. This is already letting you know the mainstream media is not on board with this, right? But it's subtle, meaning that he wants to see men and women placed on equal footing. Moore said he and Pagos filed the complaint in part to make a statement about the purpose of Title IX, landmark 1972 civil rights rule intended to create gender parity. Moore said he believes the rule is applied in a way that undermines men. Moore noted further that he does not trust the Department of Education to conduct an impartial investigation into the complaint. Right? Folks doing the investigation are the same architects of the discrimination that drew my attention initially. Right? Spokesperson for the federal DOE said there were 2 open investigations in Stanford University related to Title IX, but added that the agency could not comment on pending investigations. Now, we have to be careful because if we're not careful on how this is done, even if it gains traction, it'll end up gaining traction for like white males. And you'll see no significant differences when it comes to black, brown, red. We have to be careful about this. Black men need to be very vocal and participatory in any movement that advances their position by acknowledging the truth based on data of how they're treated and to what extent they're excluded from institutional representation. And I had men even telling me in the chat, well, in fact, if you're talking about institutional exclusion, there's something wrong with you. No. I'm the father of a son. When I see black boys excluded from something and everybody's celebrating like the shit ain't happening, I got a problem. I don't take none of this light. None of it. And I don't trust anybody if I don't see them doing the work of actually advancing those who have the least amount of access. If you're advancing everybody but the ones with the least amount of access, I already got a problem with you. If you're not doing the work of Miss Ball, I don't want to hear it. Because when it comes to boys, black boys especially, they need it. Shout out to Dr. Gamble. Says, put the data out there. Dr. THJ. Black men need to demand more K through 16 educational programs, scholarships, and services. Exactly. Right? Pagos told Chronicle that Stanford is not exceptional with regard to Title IX violations and that similar complaints are pending against other institutions. The shit is going down. It's going down. And the frustration heard, especially in social media from men, is gaining traction and people can't ignore it. I skipped a paragraph. While the complaint originally included more than 27 groups, the investigation is looking specifically into women's groups, Stanford Women in Business, Women of Stanford Law, Stanford Women in Design, Stanford Society of Women Engineers, and the Gavilan Provost Discretionary Fund. He has filed several other Title IX complaints against universities, including UC Santa Cruz, USC, Yale, and Princeton, arguing that women's groups or scholarships discriminate against men at a time when women are outpacing men in both enrollment and graduation rates. Outpacing, right? Okay. Even the use of terms just suggests that it's just occurring without context. We're not going to look at policies. We're not going to look at practices. We're not going to look at what may have actually held many of these men and boys back, most particularly black boys. We're just going to, even the language is going to give some subtext, like, boys are really just kind of whining. That's the thing you hear a lot. That's one of the first knee-jerk reactions to men in the manosphere who are pointing out the problems that are happening for men and boys. The idea is they're just whining, right? This is a deflective tactic we hear a lot from people to shame you into silence. Fuck that. If you're going to curb my son's opportunities and then try and shame me into silence, it's not happening. No, it's not going down that way. And we have to be that unapologetic about anybody who's going to tamp down black boys' options, even if it's happening from within the community. No. Still, women remain underrepresented in high-paying fields and leadership positions in business and politics. See how they try and twist it? Right? But here's the problem. When they say women are being underrepresented, the subtext to that is that men are overrepresented. But by men, we mean everybody with a penis. Right? So there is no difference. Again, black, Native American, Latino, none of that differentiates men. Men are just one homogenous group of people with hanging genitals, and they're all privileged and benefiting. That's not how that works. But these kind of generic, half-baked feminist approach, feminist approaches to these things further undermine the reality of how men actually live. You talk about those who are at the elite level, like they're implying when they talk about high-paying fields, they're talking about such a minute fraction of a fraction of men at a high level, and that fraction is overwhelmingly white. You notice they never actually make comparisons with, and with men on different levels, right? Men in different class settings, different occupations. They don't ever do that. You never hear anybody talking about how they need more equity in terms of janitors. You don't ever hear that. It's always the most elite fields that have a fraction of 1%. Never talking about that on a larger scale, right? The kind of jobs that everyday men work. That's not where you hear it. Anyway, I'm going to put this link in there too. I want you to check this out. But after everything we're talking about, we're actually starting to see the needle being pushed, right? As far as the representation of men and how they're being treated. What's happening to exclude them and holding people accountable to the point where they may have to answer in court as to how they're doing what they're doing. And I've posed the same question about HBCUs. What type of targeted efforts are being made to bring in Black young men? Anyway, I'm going to end it here. I just wanted to drop something short and sweet, or it put a hole in my gut. I'm pissed off about it. In the meantime, I'm going to go check out whatever I can on Alan Roger Curry, fellow content creator here on YouTube. Many of you have seen him in a lot of different things. You can, of course, go to his channel, check him out here on YouTube. Like I said, I hope it's not true, but based on the responses I'm seeing, something is definitely going on. So that said, appreciate your support. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel. Also support the Onyx Network channel. You can actually go watch 24 hours a day. Check out for yourself, right? You can do that on your iPhone, your Android. You could actually go to my website, tsonjohnson.com, and click on media. You can watch the channel through there. There's a link to the actual Onyx Network website where you can watch live TV. You can also go to Amazon Fire TV or Roku and download it and check it out there. Support all those endeavors, if you will, so we can continue to bring you independent Black male thought. So Brian asking the question, what I'm hearing is that Alan Roger Curry has passed. I hope that is incorrect. I have not seen an article yet, but I heard rumblings of it before I started the show. And then I heard a lot more from the brothers in the chat. So I'm going to go do my research, find out what I can find out. I hope it's not true, but it's looking more and more like it might be. Anyway, y'all have a good one. And this is the last thing I'll say in relation to Curry, if it is true, right? Obviously, we as a collective need to do better in terms of our health. We have the lowest life expectancy out of any group. A lot of that has to do with stress. A lot of that has to do with societal pressure. A lot of that has to do with our response to that stress. We term that here John Henryism, where our method for dealing with it is to put our head down and muscle through, just like the mythical figure John Henry, and outpace the machine until it costs our lives. We got to find new ways to address this, and we got to find new ways to support one another on a variety of fronts in terms of improving the quality of our lives, because it's time and ain't nobody else coming for us. So we got to do it for ourselves. And I hope we will support one another as opposed to just continuing with this rugged individual thing. We got to learn to actually operate as a collective. That said, y'all have a good night. Wish y'all well. Talk to you soon. Peace.